Today's latest update from Ukraine shows how the war continues to escalate, not through a single breakthrough, but through sustained pressure across the country. Overnight, Russian forces launched one of the largest combined drone and missile attacks in recent weeks. According to Ukrainian authorities, more than 100 drones and multiple ballistic missiles were fired toward targets across eastern, southern, and northern regions: Kharkiv, Odessa, Chernihiv, Poltava. These are not frontline villages, these are population centers, infrastructure hubs, places where civilians sleep while air defense crews remain on constant alert. Ukrainian officials say at least 4 civilians were killed in the overnight strikes, including a child, with additional injuries reported. Emergency services worked through the early morning hours as fires were extinguished and debris cleared from residential areas. Ukraine's Air Force reports that most incoming drones were intercepted, but even successful interceptions come at a cost. Falling debris damages buildings, power systems are strained, energy facilities were hit in Poltava, adding pressure to an already fragile winter grid. President Volodymyr Zelensky responded by renewing calls for additional Western air defense systems, warning that Russia is continuing to weaponize winter conditions in an effort to exhaust both infrastructure and morale. This matters today not because it is unprecedented, but because it is becoming routine. And routine in war is often more dangerous than surprise. To understand why this night fits into a larger pattern, we need to look at what happened, what we can confirm, and what remains disputed. Between midnight and dawn local time, Ukrainian authorities say Russia launched approximately 149 drones and 11 ballistic missiles in coordinated waves. The targets were spread across multiple regions rather than concentrated on a single axis. This dispersal complicates air defense responses, forcing systems to stretch coverage and prioritize threats in real time. In the Kharkiv region, a drone strike hit a residential area, killing a woman and her 10-year-old son, according to German broadcaster DW. In Odessa, officials report another civilian death following a drone impact near housing. In Chernihiv, an elderly man was killed during overnight strikes. These reports come from Ukrainian emergency services and international outlets. Independent verification is limited due to ongoing hostilities, but casualty figures align across multiple sources. Ukraine's Air Force states that it intercepted at least 116 drones, highlighting both the effectiveness and the strain placed on air defense networks. At the same time, Russian strikes damaged energy infrastructure operated by Naftogaz in the Poltava region. While Ukraine says repairs are underway, officials warn that repeated hits complicate maintenance during winter conditions. Russia has not publicly detailed the scope of its overnight strikes, though Moscow maintains that energy infrastructure is a legitimate military target. Ukraine rejects that claim, arguing such attacks are aimed at civilians and economic pressure rather than battlefield advantage. Meanwhile, President Zelensky addressed the nation, stating that air defense shortages remain Ukraine's most urgent vulnerability, particularly against large-scale drone saturation attacks. This brings us to the geography of the conflict, and why these specific locations matter. Kharkiv sits close to the Russian border and remains one of Ukraine's most heavily targeted cities. Its industrial base, rail connections, and proximity to frontline areas make it a recurring focus of Russian strikes. Odessa, Ukraine's major Black Sea port, carries strategic importance far beyond its population size. It remains critical for trade, logistics, and any future maritime agreements. Repeated attacks here signal ongoing pressure on Ukraine's access to global markets. Chernihiv lies north of Kiev and serves as a transit and logistics region. Strikes here demonstrate Russia's ability and willingness to operate across the depth of Ukrainian territory. Poltava's energy facilities sit well behind the front lines. Damage there highlights a consistent pattern, degrading systems that support daily life rather than engaging Ukrainian forces directly. This geographic spread suggests a strategy focused on cumulative pressure rather than decisive territorial gain. And that leads to the question of capabilities. Drone warfare has become central to this conflict. Russia continues to rely heavily on long-range drones, many of them designed to overwhelm defenses through sheer volume rather than precision. Ukraine, in turn, has invested heavily in layered air defense systems, combining Western-supplied interceptors, domestically adapted systems, and mobile units designed to respond quickly. But air defense is not infinite. Each interceptor costs significantly more than the drones it destroys. This cost imbalance matters over time. Electronic warfare plays a growing role as well. Both sides attempt to jam signals, disrupt guidance systems, and confuse targeting. But saturation attacks reduce the effectiveness of jamming by forcing defenders to respond visually or kinetically. Missiles add another layer of complexity. Ballistic missiles move faster, limit reaction time, and force defenders to prioritize threats that could cause the greatest damage. The result is a constant balancing act, one that favors persistence over spectacle. Now, we need to clearly separate confirmed facts from disputed claims. Confirmed. Ukrainian authorities report at least 4 civilian deaths overnight, including a child. Multiple international outlets corroborate these reports. Confirmed. Ukraine intercepted more than 100 drones, according to its Air Force. Confirmed. Energy infrastructure in Poltava sustained damage. Disputed. Russia claims such infrastructure supports military operations. Ukraine disputes this characterization. Unverified, Ukrainian military statements about Russian troop losses in the past 24 hours. These figures are released daily but cannot be independently confirmed. Separately, Reuters reports that Germany has indicted a Ukrainian national accused of involvement in a parcel bomb plot linked to Russian intelligence. German prosecutors emphasize that investigations are ongoing and caution against drawing broader conclusions. These developments highlight the complexity of information warfare layered on top of physical conflict. Now comes the most important question. Why does this matter? Because the war is no longer defined by dramatic offensives or shifting front lines. It is defined by endurance. Russia appears to be betting that sustained pressure, particularly during winter, will wear down Ukraine's infrastructure faster than it can be repaired. Ukraine, meanwhile, is betting that continued Western support, particularly in air defense, will blunt that strategy long enough to force political and strategic recalculations in Moscow. The civilian toll underscores the stakes. According to the New York Times, total casualties across both sides are approaching 2 million, a staggering figure that reflects not only combat losses, but the broader human cost of a prolonged war. Diplomatically, pressure is mounting. President Zelensky has referenced discussions with U.S. officials regarding timelines for ending the conflict, though details remain unclear. Reports of economic offers and back-channel negotiations remain unverified. What we can say is this: neither side appears close to a decisive shift. Instead, the war grinds forward, night after night, drone after drone. What should viewers watch next? First, whether Western governments accelerate delivery of air defense systems, particularly those capable of countering mass drone attacks. Second, whether Russia increases pressure on energy infrastructure as winter continues. Third, whether diplomatic channels show signs of movement or harden further as both sides seek leverage. This conflict is not frozen. It is evolving quietly, relentlessly. And tonight's attacks are not an anomaly. They are a signal that the war's center of gravity has shifted from territory to resilience. We will continue to track confirmed developments, separate fact from claim, and provide clear analysis as events unfold. You're watching a conflict where time itself has become a weapon, and every night the question remains the same: how long can endurance outlast pressure?